So we've got a court injunction telling the protesters to get off the rail line in Belleville. This is the rail line protest in support of people protesting a pipeline in BC that shut down via rail, CN rail traffic for coming on a week now. Anthony, the court injunction was issued on Friday. Do you think it actually said when you can get to it? When you're not busy? Do you think that's what the instructions to the police were?
This is really remarkable. So first of all, you would think anytime there's someone obstructing rail traffic throughout this country, throughout this province, at some point a security guard would come along and say, move along, and then you'd maybe sheepishly do it or not, and then they'd call the cops, and then the cops would remove you, and then you'd be locked up. I mean, that is my general sense as a law-abiding citizen, how things work, even if I had some political statement to make. What I don't get is why you then need to go, or CN Rail as a company needs to go to the courts and say, oh, excuse me, there's this law being broken. Could we so kindly ask that you request the police to enforce the law? That is what this court injunction does. A sheriff gets it, and a sheriff goes down to the OPP on the scene and says, here's the injunction. I've never heard of an injunction, to your point, saying, you know, do it when you please. That's Friday. What's going on?
So the OPP is obviously ignoring this, but they did put out a statement. And I guess the statement just said, we're monitoring the situation. A court injunction doesn't say, hey, you please go monitor.
No, and even better. Yes, they're monitoring the situation, but in their statement they released Tuesday morning, they also say we are engaging in dialogue with the participants. What is this? It sounds, are they at a sort of country jamboree here or something, in dialogue with participants?
Now, I was in dialogue with the Minister, Sylvia Jones. She's the Solicitor General. The OPP report to her, I was in dialogue with her office, and I said, is this a political direction that you've given or the Premier's given to the OPP not to enforce this injunction? She insists, no. They say that they do not direct operations of the OPP at all. I'm not sure I buy it. I'm not sure I've ever bought it. I understand that there are concerns around Native protests, around First Nations protests, going back to Ipperwash and the killing of Dudley George, but we cannot have complete abandonment of the rule of law in Ontario.
And Ryan, here's where I'm not buying it, because when we hear about police malfeasance, we do have the province or police services board saying, okay, we're going to convene a sort of inquiry, we're going to do a panel, we're going to do an investigation. You have a case here where police are not enforcing the law to the detriment of all those rail passengers, freight, goods, commodities, and so forth. So I don't know, maybe this warrants an inquiry. Maybe this warrants the province, which is responsible for all of this, wading in. I mean, are you trying to tell me that the police have no bosses, that they don't serve us, that they don't answer to us, and of course, us being our elected representatives, the provincial government? Give me a break. So it's very disappointing to hear that from the province.
Well, the Premier and Solicitor General Jones appointed Thomas Carrique as the OPP Commissioner. I say they pick up the phone and tell him to enforce the law.
But I got to tell you this, Brian. I was looking at old documents from 2013 because this story reminded me of a very similar situation. I thought
During Idle No More.
We've been down here before. Back in 2013, there was a blockade, same area around Belleville rail line. And what happened with CN? They got the court injunction, and the OPP said, yeah, I don't think we're going to enforce it. We feel it's too dangerous for us. So then CN goes back and they ask the same judge to issue another injunction. And this is Ontario Superior Court Justice David Brown. He writes, well, what is the point? You guys are not following the law. And he offers an ominous warning. He says in 2013, I fear that we are getting to a place where court injunctions will no longer be enforced. Police will not enforce the law when it comes to these contentious issues. 7 years later, here we are.
All right, let us know what you think. Drop a comment below. Share this on Facebook, Twitter. Email it to Aunt Martha. Get the word out.